It's oil change time. So I have the ceramic coat on the headlights that I just finished that is drying, so now I can go ahead and change the oil. So there's an engine cover that I've taken off already. This is where we're going to fill the oil, and this is the old oil filter. So I'm going to pop this cap off first, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the oil and the stuff that I need that's in the trunk of the car. And then we'll go ahead and lift it on up so I can get underneath and get the panels off and start the oil change. This is the underside of the car now, so the first step for our oil change is we need to take off this plastic cover over here. So that'll just be a couple of screws. Pop that off so we can get to the bottom of the engine and get to the bolt to do our oil change. Okay, so let's get this cover taken off. Should just be a couple of screws. There's 1, 2, 3, and up here. I think it's just these guys. 1, up all the way out. 2, double there. A couple more here. Another one down there. Looks like we got up front here. One there. A little right corner. And this side. I think that's everything. So I'm going to slide it up just like that. Okay, so now we have the cover out. We can get to the bottom of the engine, which is right over there where we need to do our oil change. So the oil change is really simple. We just take this bolt out, and from there we're good to go. Once we have that bolt out, drain out all the oil, and then we will put the bolt back in, go back to the top and fill it up with new oil. So it's pretty simple. We'll obviously change the filter at the top end, but this is all you really need at the bottom, is that one bolt. So this bucket all the way up there makes a big difference, because you do not want to be dripping oil out if you're changing the oil. So you don't want to mess oil everywhere, so use one of those, and it really just helps you capture all that oil. Okay, so now we can go ahead and take the bolt out. So I got my wrench, got the thing here to catch the oil. Let's get this going. Okay, there, that is broken loose. You'll see it'll start to drip. Now that it's broken loose, I can get this all the way up there to catch the oil and get the bolt coming out. There we go. And this pan has a filter, so your bolt won't go all the way down, but this is just good positioning. We'll put that right there. That way all the oil can drain out and it can drip down. One thing that does help is what I did beforehand on the top, is taking that oil cap off. That just helps it drain a lot quicker. If the oil cap's still on, it'll take a bit longer to drain. So I've let this drip for a while now while I took the wheels off. I'm doing a tire rotation at the same time, so I let this drip. I think we're at a point where it's probably fine. So go ahead and I'll get the bolt cleaned up, and then just clean up around this area and get our bolt started again. Just keep this in place while we finish up yet. Give that a good clean. Right around there. Get our bolt lined up. Turn that in by hand first. Lean around there. Got the bolt, got the crush washer. Make sure that you always have that crush washer on there, otherwise you'll get an oil leak. So always check that you have the crush washer and that it didn't fall into the oil pan. Make sure this is going in the right direction. And snug that up. So now we're done with the bottom side of the car, so I can go ahead and I can actually get my panel installed under here again, and then I'll be done with the bottom side. I can flip over to the top side. Obviously wheels are off, so I'm not going to put it on the ground right now, but I can get the panel going. So I don't like to use a drill on impact to tighten these, because they're like a simple turn just to a stop, and if you use a drill or impact, you can strip them or over tighten them and do some damage. So I'll use it to take it off because it's easy, but when I'm putting it back in, I prefer to do it by hand. So I'm done with everything on the bottom side now for the oil change, so now let's work on the top side. So I need to change the filter and then put new oil in. So this is our oil filter over here. Most of the time you may be able to get enough torque in it by hand to turn it out, but not on this one. So we have a tool that you can wrap around to get that out. Should be one that fits your filter. Okay, I found it. This is the right size tool, so that fits onto the oil filter, and then you can just put a wrench onto there and take it off. Really simple and easy when you use this tool. So it just goes onto a ratchet and you can screw off the oil filter. I like to get some paper towel ready just to kind of catch any drips. We'll go ahead and get that screwed off. Oh, and that came off real clean, no real drips. So that's the old oil filter off. I can get the new oil filter and screw it on. Okay, so this is our new oil filter. I like to just take some of this paper towel and wipe up in this area. And that just gives me a little bit of oil. Just take a small bit so I can soak up a bit more. Okay, there we go. So there I have some oil soaked up. And what I like to do is just to make sure you get a good seal is just put a little bit around on the rubber of the new filter, just so that we don't have any hang-ups or anything when we screw it in. So that little bit on the rubber should be fine, and then we can screw in the new oil filter. Okay, that's hand tight. I can grab my little tool again. And you don't want to make these too crazy tight, just snug enough. So that should be good. I'm not going to pull too hard on that, and that will seal well, and we wouldn't have anything that caught if I put in that little bit of oil on that rubber. Now we can go ahead and get a funnel and fill up our oil. On this car it takes 4.5 quarts of oil is what they recommend in the book. Now it will take a little more on this specific car at about 5 quarts. If you look on the inside on the measuring, it puts you at about the max line. So that works out really well, that you can just put a whole 5 quart jug of oil into the car. Okay, so I have my funnel in place now, and I have my Mobil 1 full synthetic, the European car formula, and that's what I'm going to be filling this up with. So let's go ahead and get that oil filled. So we're full on the oil now. Take the funnel, clean that off, put it out the way. And then take my oil cap, get it back on. Oh, I'm gonna do it the other way around. So my right end's the right way. There we go, so the oil cap's on. Now the final step that I have to do is to just put on the engine cover. So this lines up and just pops in place like that. Now the engine cover's back installed. Everything is nice and clean. And that is the oil change done. So oil change is really easy. You can do it yourself. You don't really need to have a car lift. Obviously that makes it a lot easier. but it's just your filter, draining the oil, and refilling the new oil. So that's this part done. Now I can go ahead and finish rotating the tires.